Hey, happy Monday, June 24th, day 1.0, episode 2. Grab your headphones, get to the gym. It's about that 5 o'clock hour. Grab your caffeine. We're going to talk some shit today. Eli, we're going to stir some stuff up.
Let's do it, man.
I mean, excuse me, Will Grimes.
Eli Schmidt here.
Eli Schmidt here. See, I always cut you off. I need to give you time to fucking do that and run your mouth. We got a great topic today. It's not exactly what everybody, I think some of it is when we say toxic positivity. I think people have some clue of what that is. And the first thing most people think is like, is everyone gets a trophy. That's a form. I was thinking about that on the shitter today when I was going over, when I was on the poopy. That's what I say now because I've got a baby at home. When I was on the poopy, I was thinking of that. One aspect, there's several layers. We always talk about layers, but then the other topic for today that kind of coincides with toxic positivity is almost the opposite, man. It's like placing yourself into a position of pain for benefit. And I can speak a lot to that, and I think we're going to get into it, man. But I think it's a great day. It's fucking Monday. People are getting to the gym. They're starting the weeks. They're getting motivated, and I think a lot of people can feel this, man. So, Eli, you had some good thoughts on matter of fact, this was actually, and it's funny because I'm the loudmouth. Right, I'm the Marine. I'm the whatever. Right, and people expect certain things from me. It's funny because you're actually more anal than me a lot of times, but you're quieter and you might only say it to me. Yeah. And dude, you'll say a fucking bomb and it cracks me up. But you're way more strict sometimes. I look like I'm gonna say it, and sometimes I just say it for you. But you were actually the one that had the piece to toxic positivity.
Well, I lived this shit, man, like that toxic positivity thing, and you know, a lot of it came from, you know, we're in an age right now of like self-development is more popular than it's ever been. Like the Tony Robbins shit, like with all these like motivational speakers that are out now, and you know, a lot of authors are getting a lot of public recognition from the books that they're putting out. You know, you're a badass, and like, you know, a lot of those books that are just, you know, pumping you up.
So let's start there, right? Like we can kind of go down the list on what we're talking about. So when you mean self-help, how is that? Like, how do you put that into the lane of toxic positivity? As in, people just want to like read that or hear that and like feel good, but they're not fucking doing anything with it. Or what do you mean?
So ever since like The Secret came out, and I use that for an example, and any book that I mention or any movie that I mention,
book. Hey, listen,
I've been into that shit, dude.
I bet you. I
love it.
I like it. I know. Like, get a little weed going. You start thinking of Tom Hanks and that fucking Treasury shit, right? I get it, man.
Hanks.
Yeah, dude, the movie The Treasure. You know,
no, that was Nicolas Cage.
No, whatever. One of those fucking weird.
Or that was National Treasure, Nicolas Cage.
National Treasure,
but nothing to do with.
Speaking of that, we went on my lady and I. We went on a binge Nicolas Cage Netflix day one time. Every movie was good.
Good and terrible at the same time,
except for Con Air. Hey, get out of that airplane! Like his southern accent was fucking. Was it, dude? His southern accent was.
He's
terrible.
Like Nickelback though. Like you love to hate him.
Yeah.
Like still great actor.
Could you imagine him singing? Could you imagine Nicolas Cage singing Nickelback Photo with this southern accent?
We need to make that meme.
You guys are gonna get me high, and I'm gonna do that.
Nickelback's a good band. They're just easy to hate on.
But to get back to our topic today, right? Not to get too off topic, even though that's kind of the idea here a little bit on these podcasts. That book was a little deceiving, dude, because it had like the red wax fucking stamp on it. The leather cover. You almost felt like you found this fucking book doing shrooms in the mountains, and like you came across the book of like the wizard from that guy from Lord of the Rings, just some bullshit, right?
Yeah. But ever since that came out, and it was seriously life changing for me, because a lot of these, ideologies do really apply to real life. They are effective, and I am the most optimistic person that you've probably ever met. But there comes a time to where it becomes toxic to your productivity, to your actual self-development. And I went through that personally because, I mean, it's the past decade I've been watching movies like The Secret and studying these books and reading every self-help and self-development book that comes out. And what happens is you just fall in that trap of feeling like you're making progress by reading these books. And in addition to that, a lot of times you do need the negative thoughts. And for me, I was such a positive person and became like just so cautious of a negative thought that came into my mind. I wouldn't allow any negative thoughts in, and I wouldn't entertain a single one of them. But what I started realizing, particularly after meeting you, was that some of those...
I like how that's where the bomb comes in fat.
Some of those negative thoughts can actually make you better.
Well, they're great for you, but see, here's the thing, right? I'm okay with these books. I've read books before. I like pulling pieces from things and just learning, taking what I can. Like if I read a book or listen to an audiobook, and I try to take what I can from it, right? And,
Right.
And I'm a very audio guy. Like I've got a fellow Marine, brother of mine, Brian Chantage. What an incredible guy, man! Super incredible, and he's got a podcast now. And that's super productive.
The Crooked Butterfly, right?
The Crooked Butterfly. Let's give him a shout out, man. The Crooked Butterfly. And what a phenomenal human being. And I mean that, I'm saying that on purpose. I'm not saying phenomenal Marine. He was.
Right.
He was one of the best that's ever lived, but what a phenomenal human being. And the blessing of that podcast and me being more like, I've read a ton of books, believe it or not, right? But I'm more of like that audio guy. I like to listen to audiobooks and things like that in the gym. But now I get to learn a ton from him or take what I can away from a podcast, not of him as a Marine, him as a person, like how long he's developed. I think he's in his young 40s now, looks phenomenal, crushes CrossFit, phenomenal guy. But I'm not learning from that podcast from like him from a Marine Corps perspective. It's from a father. It's from everything. So I get to learn who this guy is as a human being, and I take a lot away from that. However, even something like that can impact huge. If I'm not executing any of those ideologies, right? Like just like in fitness, we always talk about that, but it's true, right? Like you can read books on pull-ups and there's different grips for pull-ups and there's ways to get better at it. But if you're not actually doing pull-ups, and you're not going to know what it feels like to grip that bar and how chalk feels, or if you get a couple blisters, or why do you put your thumbs on top versus grabbing around, you haven't felt the pain in your forearms quite yet. And I think that's what you're talking about is, that negative, when you realize negative can be positive for you, it's, you've been doing too much reading. You're not in the fight. You're not in that fight of life. You don't understand, like, by implementing some of that and just being honest to yourself.
And really, it was more like learning when and how to be hard on myself.
Yeah.
And I think like I am still kind of a procrastinator, but I've gotten much better at not procrastinating in the past. If you're not hard on yourself, dude, and you let something slip.
Like, for example, hey, Eli, remember that podcast number 1 we dropped? Hey, man, we're about to do another one tomorrow. You want to upload that one to your fucking Facebook yet before we overlap like that?
Just like that. Just
I like
that.
Calling me out because, full disclosure, I don't do a calendar well at all.
We're getting better, though. We're both getting better.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right.
But like, dude, learning how to like talk, and maybe it's different because I'm in my own head, so I don't know how other people are in their own head, but I didn't let a goddamn one negative thought come into my head.
Sometimes it's all or nothing. You know what I mean? Like when
right.
people, especially when you're learning something new, sometimes it's all or nothing, to where when you're focused on being positive, especially the way like a book like The Secret talks about and what you're manifesting and things like that. But the reality is you can't control everything that's around you. Like you can influence the best that you can, but there's some elements there that just are uncontrollable, that you almost have to be reactive to, that come around unexpected. And dude, sometimes it's okay. You know what I mean? And I think it's innate. I think it's in our human nature, man. Like, when a saber-toothed tiger would come around the fucking corner, like, yeah, man, you should be alert. You should be ready to go. There's a problem. And a lot of, we learned that from like the military and training for war and everything else. Like, you understand, like when that hair stands up on your back or whatnot, like when it's time to get serious and take something serious versus, hey, everything's going to be okay.
Well,
no, it's not,
Right. It's a real danger.
Yeah.
And for me, since I've started, putting myself in and dude, weird enough, usually it's like in the shower, like when I'm showering before bed, and my brain kind of has a chance to, kind of take inventory of what happened throughout the day. And I have to intentionally now, like when things didn't go as planned or a conversation could have gone better, thinking about that and then being like, oh, fuck, Eli, like you could have done better, dude. And just having those, just a higher level of expectation versus, hey, it's okay, you'll do better next time.
Well, and here's the deal. Nobody's dying.
Right.
We talk about, we talk a lot of times, and when we're going over business and different things. And at the end of the day, man, our families are safe and people are safe, and nobody's dying per se, right? Minus an unexpected event in your daily life. But the term negative, like, you got to be super careful with that term, because a lot of times we, especially nowadays, especially like some of the things we've seen in corporate Americas before, is conflict gets married to the word negative.
Great example.
Not true, right? Like, it's very subjective. It's very situational. And a lot of obstacles that we run into, man, they are. And it sounds cliche because there's a lot of fucking quotes online nowadays, and you can read that bullshit too. But, obstacles that happen, in improvising and adapting and overcoming certain situations that weren't necessarily predictable, but you work through them. This is why being fundamentally sound is so is so important because you can't predict every little thing. But if you fall back on your fundamentals and the way that you approach your business or the way you approach your family, your life, those fundamentals are going to be able to help you react, right? But you know, or like what you talk about, like this hard discussions, like when we fired people from the team before, things like that, like conflict, or like when you and I have argued, we've had some arguments in that
big
BMW,
ones,
huh?
yeah, big ones.
Dude, well, big. I don't know about
Big ones,
right?
Yeah, big for me.
All right, big.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we
yeah.
look, we kissed and we made up. But
Yep.
but here's the deal. It was like the arguments that we've had. Both of us were coming from a good place,
Right.
and we were newer at communicating with each other, so we were growing. So there's some defense there. People got walls, and you like this dude, but you're still kind of protecting yourself, and you know, no better friend, no worse enemy, like we say in the Marine Corps kind of thing, man. Like, I'm still feeling this guy on. Do I trust him? Do I not trust him? Like, he's a good dude, but where's my limit? Until you finally realize that, hey, man, no matter what, like, we're both passionate about our business that we're doing together.
Right.
And everything that we say, whether we disagree or not, is coming from a good place. And then the conflict that we were having, you know, it was very productive. It wasn't negative at all. It was very productive as far as us learning how to communicate better, seeing situations for what they were, seeing them from a different scope, and ultimately being able to be different in a sense, but working together well enough so we're cohesive. So, you know, as we approach business, it's from two different angles, and we're productive versus you and I, you know, one of us forcing the other to be like us, which is one dimensional. And that doesn't win anything.
Dude, and I think everyone benefits from that, and that's one of the biggest things when I'm having individual conversations with like agents on our team, and a lot of times, like when we're talking about you, you
hear that,
dude? It does come up. Like I tell them personally, like, hey, one of the reasons I love working with Will is because it's gotten me much better at having those tough conversations and dealing with conflict from a good place, and it's just like you get callous to it. Like before, like people are scared of conflict because we go our whole adult lives trying to avoid any conflict, and then
And
the
it's married
second
to that
there's
negative.
and then the second there's a little bit, because we don't know how to handle it, we take it to like a 10, even if it's just internally or whatever.
or we feel negative about it, like it shouldn't be happening in the fucking first place.
Because
not true.
Well, we're just raw to it. We're not callous to it. But just like having
100%.
like learning how to have productive conversations out of conflict with you on a regular basis and seeing how you do it with other people, that's one of the biggest benefits I find working side by side with you and people on the team that I think can take away from you. Because that dude, dealing with clients and like when inspections come in bad or you're negotiating with agents, that's technically conflict.
Of course.
And if
of
you're
course.
not calloused to that, it's going to make you emotional. It's going to start affecting other areas of your life.
Yeah.
So the more you can be around productive conflict, I think that is super beneficial.
As long as you've got some self-control, and that's going to be a whole nother topic we can talk about, self-control and allowing our emotions to get the best of us. And another shout out to Brian Shantosh. You know, he had a podcast, and I can't steal it from him. I've thought about it a lot, but he came out on one of his podcasts about it, and it was with the decisions that he's making, or you know, everything that he's going through. Like, is he allowing his emotions to get the majority vote versus thinking tactically, or just thinking, you know, matter of fact? And I'm speaking for him right now, which is inappropriate. I can't quote him on it, but the synopsis of that was, am I allowing my emotions to have majority vote? And this is a big thing when you're, you know, so there's a lot of layers that come with being able to embrace conflict,
Right.
and be productive. You do have to have a lot of self-control, right? And you've got to like if you and I are having conflict, look, man, I can't get abusive to you because I'm passionate about my opinion, and no matter how right I am, I'm damaging a relationship trying to get my point across. Counterproductive. And this is where it now gets married to that word negative. Like, oh, conflict is negative. No, how you fucking handle conflict is negative. No, bitch, you're negative, which means everything you do is negative, versus having some self-respect, whether you respect that person or not, having enough respect for yourself and how you choose to conduct yourself within situations and not allowing things to consume you.
Right.
If you don't have that, yeah, it can get super toxic, and now it's not even the subject matter. It's how you're handling it that's building even more walls on someone, or not allowing someone to hear you. If you become like, if I'm so scary to my daughter, yeah, man, she's going to do whatever I say in that moment, but has no idea why, right? And now I'm forcing something, and that's not the right way. So I think, again, before we move on to some of these other toxic positivity, you know, categories or subjects within, I definitely think how we conduct ourselves puts more weight on why conflict is negative than the actual conflict we're working through, right? It's that mindset of how you handle it, but a lot of people don't. And I've made my mistakes, man. Like I'm already, as you guys can tell, Like Fat's looking at me right now. Look at me. Fat's looking at me. I'm already like a passionate guy.
You are.
I'm more of like a muscular / fat dude. I've got a more of a loud voice. You can say it's a command presence and all that cool stuff and whatnot. But I also have to have that self-awareness. Like, I'm already a passionate guy. I fucking cuss.
Yep.
You know, so like I'm talking with Fat the other day, and we were going through a couple scenarios with leadership and mindset and like what to say and not to say in front of the team. And I was like, hey man, we can't fucking do that. Here's why. And Fat knows me. He's good to go. But I still was like, Fat, hey man, I'm super sorry about that. And he's like, what are you talking? What? We're good. And I'm like, no man. Hey, look, when we're talking about something where we can get better, I got to watch my mouth because I don't want you to think I'm cussing at you. If I'm just cussing in the conversation, I think people understand that. But when it comes down to like, you know, trying to give some advice or just trying to give some perspective to someone and maybe they're new to it or whatever it may be, that no longer can be an environment for cussing because now that passion and that command presence that I have can come off aggressive or maybe look like I'm more upset than I am. And those things, I think, is what creates the recipe to make conflict negative. It's how we're handling it, not the actual conflict at hand and how we can overcome it and actually become stronger and move forward from that, if that makes sense, right?
Dude, and that self-awareness is huge, man. And I mean, because, yeah, a Chihuahua and a German Shepherd can both bark. It's just a bark, but it's a lot different coming from that German Shepherd than it is the fucking Chihuahua.
I think he just called you a German Shepherd, or excuse me, a Chihuahua Fat.
He called me a Chihuahua.
I called you a German Shepherd. He's the poor mailman.
No, it's 100%. So I think just as a precursor, even though we're already a couple minutes into this, if you're going to handle conflict in a positive way, who you're around, who you're deciding to do business with, who's in your life, like they got to marry that, right? Like everybody has to have some self-awareness and some self-respect on how they handle it. We don't know every agent that we work with on the opposite side of deals. If they're dickheads, that's fine, man. Like I have enough self-respect for me. I know how to handle it and keep my emotions out of it. But when you're working every day with someone or you've got a family, those are people that you're emotional about. And those are people that you're around all the time. Everybody kind of has to be on the same page of how we're approaching conflict. Yeah. Sorry, guys, that's my dog's barking.
German Shepherd.
That's a big ass wolf pup up there about to do work on someone. So
well, and here's what I think. You know, I always like talking about solutions. Whenever we talk about stuff like this, I don't just want to talk about it and then forget it. Let's talk about some solutions. And what I think people need to start doing,
self-awareness, man.
Self-awareness, number
not
one.
To cut you off.
Read the books. Get some general ideologies in your mind. You know, if you're a super negative person and that's just your kind of go-to programming,
or find someone you emulate. So when we talk about reading books,
well, that's the next step I was getting to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pull
get
that
the
right
ideology. Get the ideologies in your head. You know, start change your mindset a little bit. But then that next step has to be putting the books down and getting around people who are positive, productive people who aren't stuck in that negative mindset place, but they're also doing shit with their life.
Or find someone in your industry. Find someone you can be friends with and hey, man, can I pick your brain? I'd love to buy you lunch and pick your brain. And don't expect someone to be your mentor, by the way. That's a whole nother, that's another fucking topic when people have that. We've had people approach us.
Yeah, learn to bring some value first.
Like they were doing us the favor.
For a mentor, right?
Yeah, we're not even a big deal yet, and people are doing that. But no, man, I definitely think you've got to be in a circle where people have some self-awareness and they know how to conduct themselves respectfully, so conflict becomes productive versus conflict's not negative. You're just being fucking negative, right? And I'm sure you guys can relate to a lot of that. And
yeah, dude.
Can you still hear that big old dog up there?
It's my dog.
Dude, we're out here in the middle of nowhere. We have a secret underground location. If you guys saw my picture today with the cement barrier behind me, so we're in a secret off the grid location. I got a big old wolf pup upstairs that's gonna do work on someone like the mailman, but not the mailman because we're off the grid. Disclosure.
Yeah, right. So real quick here. So there was a video that I had seen online. I got to try and find the guy's name so we can give him some sort of credit. But anyway, he's a kids martial arts instructor, and he was talking to this one individual kid, and the whole class is watching, and he was trying to get him to show some form of aggression and put his hands on him and be assertive. And the kid was scared, and he was crying, and he was trying to do the move, but it wasn't there, too weak, and the kid just was crying. And the guy stopped, got down on his knees, and was talking to the kid. And he's like, "Hey," he's like, "You're crying because you're scared?" The kid nods his head, "Yeah." And he's like, "You know, you're scared to be aggressive, and you know, maybe be scary to someone else." "Yeah." And he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "There's a time to be a lion and a time to be a sheep." And he said, like, we all got some lion in us. We all got some sheep in us. Well, and he goes, I'm
never a sheepy lion. You know what I am? I'm either a killing lion or I'm a laying in the grass lion. How about that? How about that, Eli?
Well, and
no, I know what you mean. All jokes aside, I know what you mean. Is And you're right. Like sometimes the aggressiveness, like there's also a negative
But if
connotation on that.
But his point was, if you don't let that out and learn how to control that, eventually there's going to come a time where that line comes out.
Conversations,
regardless,
conflict, things you're not comfortable with. As an adult, you're not gonna function the right way.
And then the second it happens, you freak out because you don't know how to control that.
Right.
And that's let's say you do bump into a guy at the bar, you do get some aggressive guy in your face. If you're not used to handling some sort of conflict and keeping your cool, it's going to go straight emotion, and then you're popping off, and then you're getting knocked the fuck out.
They call that verbal judo in the police world.
Yeah.
And it's true, man. You can't go on every call pulling your gun, trying to be crazy with people.
If you're not used to that, if you haven't put in some reps, man, then...
And these are all great, and I think it's a little sideways, so let's keep it going as far as toxic positivity. A couple notes that I wrote down today, too, like... so the first one was like the overly positive. So I'm not going to name any names because I don't think that's important. And it's really not a specific name. Being honest here, but we've had those corporate meetings. They're like, let's talk real estate. Oh fuck. Yeah, man. We've seen those Monday morning, meetings, and people are overly positive about nothing, right? Like. People are getting better at social media. And, I messaged someone on social media and I asked them out to coffee and they said yes. And then we fucking praise them. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, that is not the fucking bar. But the problem is it's like the whole crowd. It almost becomes cult. And that's a strong word. So maybe not cult, but I'm searching for a word right now.
Pretty close, dude.
But it's like drinking the Kool-Aid and oh my God, like you're amazing. Like the word's amazing and all these words that get thrown out there on social media, how we compliment people and just that overly kind piece. And it's not that it shouldn't be celebrated. Like if you're an introvert, quote unquote, like I don't like putting people in boxes or putting myself in a box. I'm not even sure if I buy in on that. But if you think or if you perceive yourself to be an introvert and that was something for you, I definitely think you should reward yourself and pat yourself on the back. Like for me, we've got this 90-day of cardio going on, this challenge that we're doing with our networking group, FitWorks, and everybody's kicking ass. And look, man, I've been doing it every day. And I'm getting it done. I'm not posting about it. Like if I got time to post, cool. If I don't, nope. But my integrity, I'm going to do it. But I don't need everyone to tell me like how amazing I am because I got my ass up into my fucking cardio that day. No, man. And you know why? It's not because I'm an asshole. Well, I'm an asshole. I get that. But this specifically is not assholisms, okay? Yep. This specifically is like, no, man, I don't want that moment to water down the actual achievement. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like after the 90 days of straight cardio and I push myself and I hit a goal, hey, then let me slap a high five and have a beer, say something like, then let's get back to work. That's my fear, man. When people start getting those endorphins released and start getting rah-rahed for just basic shit, man, it's going to water down the actual achievement you're going for, and it's also going to dilute your effort to actually fucking get there, man.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of times it can prevent you from even hitting that at all.
Well, there was that science study. Don't quote me. I don't know who wrote it, but about that whole, and I know you were talking to me about it, when people already get the gratification and the endorphins and the reward by verbalizing something. Like, we talk about goals.
I think they were using marathons.
People felt like they already ran it just by talking about it and people being excited that they were going to go do it. They already felt like they were doing it like through like their feel goods. And that's crazy. And that's, again, man, I fall back on what I know best with the Marine Corps and certain things that I did, man. And those motherfuckers, they don't give a fuck, bro. Like you run a 300 perfect PFT, somebody ran a 310. They do like, you can get higher than a perfect if you do things in less time. And people don't, look, dude, people don't give a fuck. And here's the deal. If however great you are at something, if you're not applying that to making other people better and supporting the team, it doesn't fucking matter.
Well, and what it can do in business, man, is it makes people, or it gives people an out to do a subpar job, and then they expect praise when they do something that, yes, is maybe above average, but should be part of the norm.
And I'm glad you said that, because this will be a whole, we should just be writing topics down for this podcast, but it starts from leadership. And this is why, like with our team, you and I are still in the dirt, doing deals, beating our team's asses every month, and I love that. But there's a standard there, and if I'm going to hold a standard and not pat you on the back and not tell you how amazing you are because you had coffee with someone, I better be doing something better. Because if I'm not, I definitely can't say shit to what you just did. So from leadership on down, setting a standard, and again, this isn't negative. Just because I don't give a fuck per se that you had coffee with someone, no, I do. Within the scope of like high achievements, no, man, I don't give a fuck. What I give a fuck about is you utilizing that to give yourself direction for the bigger goal. Keep your eye on that North Star. But there's going to be these incremental goals that you got to hit on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis that end up leading you to that North Star. And I'm super, super, super in support of that. But if you're too busy celebrating them, you're not getting there. But again, man, like that starts from the leadership. Whatever we allow to be acceptable within our teams, within our businesses, that's acceptable. And if we don't set standards for ourselves, and if we're not achieving them how we expect everyone else, if we're not leading from the front, it doesn't fucking matter. That's exactly why that culture gets bred. And sometimes, man, we talked about it on the last podcast where people in our business have openly said, I don't want 9s and 10s. 9s and 10s, as far as entrepreneurs that are go-getters, they don't stay long. They take what they can. They end up making their own business.
Yep.
We want those 6s and 7s that think they're this, but actually need direction and need to be told how cool they are. And believe it or not, man, you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
100%, man.
I've got a kind of a mantra that I tell myself, and that's be grateful but never satisfied. And that's one thing that, you know, Megan, my wife, has talked to me a bit about, and she's asked me about, like, hey, like, you never celebrate anything, like for every big accomplishment, like you don't go and do anything. And I'm like, yeah, like there may be something to that, but for me, like I did the work that I knew what was required, and the outcome was the outcome. It's just, it makes sense to me. A plus B equals C. Do the work.
You and I are good at slapping high fives. You and I don't do much. Hey man, that was great. Hey, we did this month, or you know, or we doubled the size of our team, or hey, our team's profitable and they're doing this and this and this, and hey, great. And it's a slap and a high five in the car, and then we're back to work. But it's also because you can't spend so much time or time like celebrating something, you lose momentum. And I think, you know, momentum in any atmosphere, on the battlefield, in business, when you've got some momentum rolling, man, that's when you've got to triple down and keep working at it and keep focused on that North Star, but capitalize. And it's not that there's not time for vacations and things like that, but when that momentum is popping off and you've got that leverage, just like tug of war, right? Like let's apply this to something that everyone knows from like 5th grade. Once you get that momentum, and then all of a sudden somebody starts going 1, 2, 3, pull, and it starts working, right? And then you start getting pulls over the other team, and then everybody's working in rhythm. That's the last time. That's the least time you want to start not working as a team, or you want to start letting up a little bit because you got a foot on. No, this is where you want to triple down and continue that momentum, and then ultimately pull them off, right? It's the same thing with your momentum in business and everything else. It's not because we don't think we've earned it, or you know, because we're not trying to be positive.
Or something.
No, man, you're just focused, and you also have to understand the level of achievement. Listen, we know top 1% nationwide, you know, for Berkshire Hathaway, and most homes sold for fourth quarter for the state of Colorado. We've done some cool shit in that first year. But for me, man, I'm strictly because I'm like, hey, no matter how cool those things are, that was our first year owning a team. So for me, I'm like, dude, I don't care how much we've achieved. That's not our bar. And if that means we have to compete against ourselves to get higher, that's fine too. But let's pat ourselves on the back, and that was great, man. And I think he got me to smoke a little weed that day. Right? But, and I was like, and we listened to Bone Thugs and Harmony in the parking lot. That was cool.
Yeah. Like
it was fucking awesome.
30 times on repeat.
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah.
Dude, it felt amazing. But, right? But with that being said, man, it was continuing that momentum because, they measured 12 months. But, dude, this is real life.
Right.
Like we were right in the middle of a power band and really capitalizing. You got to push forward. You got to focus on that. So, you know, that the main topic on that, guys, is just understanding, like, when are you in this atmosphere of just overly positive? And I think your conscience says something to you. I think you know when people are like patting your fanny a little bit too much for some bullshit.
Maybe, dude. I don't know. People like that feel good shit.
That's why I like you, because you argue.
People get that feel good shit, man. I don't.
Yeah.
Most people aren't as introspective as you. Most people don't take time to think about their thoughts and you know, like the things that they did or could have done better. Most people don't, man.
I mean, I do a lot. I know that, and you guys, you know, Fat, you're around me a lot now, and Eli, I talk a fuck ton, but I think even more.
Yeah.
But again, man, I had such great leadership in the Marine Corps. You know, I've mentioned one of them today, Tosh, and there's been some other guys that have really made me successful that have. One, they've been hard on me. And then secondly, it didn't matter if you got your feelings hurt, and I don't give a fuck. This isn't a place to have your feelings hurt. But, man, so when you're training for the battlefield, it's not that they're trying to hurt your feelings, but they're going to be as direct as possible so you know exactly what you're fucking up.
Right.
So you know exactly where and how to get better. And it comes off direct as shit. It's a fastball, dude. Randy Johnson, that's a baseball player, by the way.
Thank you.
Randy Johnson throwing 103 miles an hour down home plate. Here it comes, and it's fucking hard. But it's not negative. It's like, hey, guys, we're training for this, and this is what's coming up, right? This is the inevitable if we're not this direct. Like, we don't have any time to make you fucking feel good about it or worry about your fucking feelings. Like, we're trying to keep guys alive. This is what we're training for, right? Like, and then whether you go to combat or not, the entire Marine Corps was, you know, especially like your infantrymen, we're training for this, right? So it's got to be very direct because you don't have time to waste. So I think that also helped me thicken my skin as far as like being direct as possible with matters at hand that got to be better. This is where I've gotten better at business. Not that people in business are fannies, not at all. But you do have to be more patient because understanding the extreme conditions people go through, training for something like that's a little different. Here, nobody's dying. Nobody's on like red alert and they're just desperate for training because they're scared for themselves. This is a different environment, so you do have to be a little bit more cognizant of how you handle it. But at the same time, man, that directness isn't necessarily negative. It's exactly what you need.
Right.
And it's about being able to handle that. But again, guys, overly positive people, sometimes we need a little boost, right?
Yeah.
But here, okay, disclosure. If my lady goes, honey, do I look fat in this dress? Listen, I am not saying yeah. And she's not fat, but what she might think she's fat. Or I might be like, yeah, you looked a lot leaner in the other one. Like, that's not the right answer. So if you guys are listening to me, I don't sign off on your relationships or where you decide to deploy this information. Don't call your lady fat. Like,
you can call her thick, but be like,
it depends, man.
You're thick with 2 C's.
No, listen,
not CK.
If you decide to enter battle in your own home, like that's your deal. But I think it's important. I think understanding, like you said, you said you used to smoke weed on top of like Lookout Mountain and pray for a guy like me. That's I'm elaborating, right? Yeah. Lookout Mountain.
So just so people know, I'm certain that I conjured Will up in my life because
like Fight Club.
I knew exactly what my strengths were. I knew exactly what my weaknesses were. I knew that some of my strengths were actually weaknesses. And I had a business partner before. Learned a lot of lessons with that. Some positive, some negative, but learned a lot. And then and I am a spiritual dude. I do pray often. And when I was in those prayers, there were many of them where I was praying for a good business partner because I know how well I work with a partner.
So being modest, I'm like the second coming of Jesus.
But
you're Jewish.
But when I
right?
But when
hey, look, fat. I'm not saying that. I don't think I am. But maybe that's the whole point. It's like he sent me down here and didn't want me to know who I am. So I did things the right way for the right reason,
bro. That's
so.
deep. But when I met
I'm
Will,
full of shit. Guys, I'm busting his balls.
Literally, all of my weaknesses are Will's super strong strengths, and both of us, I feel like, are extreme versions of ourselves, and we kind of needed to bleed into each other a little bit,
bit.
And like if Will wasn't such a constant, like if his energy wasn't so concentrated, he wouldn't have enough to bleed over into me. If mine wasn't so constant, it's true.
That could have been negative. He could have said some shit.
No, it's true, dude.
Well, and here's what's true for me. So just a full disclosure, we've had this talk before. It's like I thought, and it wasn't bad. I wasn't talking shit, but I was like, hey man, are you kind of a pushover?
Right.
Like, are you letting people want? Like, hey, are you not seeing this?
The answer was yes.
But it wasn't. And this, remember, when we've talked about this before, it was like, no man, you saw wholeheartedly what was going on. And you decided to just let it lay.
In certain situations, yes.
So This is where I learned from you because, dude, sometimes I wasn't good at picking my battles, or like I'm great at like the emotional intelligence and like just knowing what they're doing when they're not saying what they're doing. Hey, you say what you're doing, but I know what you're doing here. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but hey, I know what you're up to. Fucking cut it out.
Right.
And I would put a lot of care into that. And I'm not a veteran, like, as much as I have been in other careers. I'm still new per se into business. And that's where like you have to understand, no matter how many tools you have from over here, you can't trade experience. So I learned how to just collect my thoughts, maybe sleep on something before I decide to say something. And it's definitely benefited me. But again, it goes back to overly positive people or again, underly positive people are just assholes and negative. I get it. There's a flip side of that. There's plenty of shit on YouTube for that stuff. But I think just having that self-awareness of knowing, like, what are you getting from your circle? What are you getting from people that you do business with? Is it productive? Are you getting what you need from it or not? We've got plenty of homies that we don't do business with. There's a time and place for that kind of stuff, but you do have to have people that you can be better on, right? Like, I got friends that are amazing, man. I'm never going to ask them about a marriage question.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's okay. They're just not the friend for that. But in business, you've got to do the same thing. So, man, I think that's I think that's huge. The other thing we spoke about, I've got my notes, man. So we've got the overly positive people. We've got a trophy for everything. That's huge. And that concerns me in sports, man. So sports, Eli, for all of you that don't know, Eli's a big jiu-jitsu guy. He does jits, bruh. And that's what they say so if you guys are ever not wanting to be new in jiu-jitsu, just say, hey, do you jits, bruh? Apparently that's veteran talk. But like in sports and in competition, when they're giving participation awards away,
God.
and well, you were the most energetic player of the losing team.
I
Like,
have a
fuck,
really
man.
good story for you.
Well, here's my thing. What I don't understand is like you feel so bad that you want to give a kid a trophy that you're putting a negative connotation on losing. It's not.
Right.
Look, it's not
That's bad.
negative. It's matter of fact. Okay, it's Neanderthal, right? Like the Mayans knew this. Okay, like they played soccer and shit and cut each other's heads off, right? Like here's the deal. You scored less points. Okay, you fucking lost. Hey, you scored less points, but you were the most energetic, happy-go-lucky, positive person on the planet, and you were so positive in failure. But here's my deal. I'm good with that. Like, hey, you were super positive, you embraced failure, and you got your team and you moved on, you moved forward. I love that. I just don't think it needs a fucking trophy. I think there's a quality there, and you want to like bleed that quality into your team. But dude, I watched this at a chess tournament one time for Chloe. She was doing chess. By the way, I think that's awesome. My daughter, she's super athletic. She does a ton of shit, but she's like a science freak and chess freak. And I was trying not to scream when she'd like win at the chess match. I had to be quiet. But dude, so many kids were getting trophies that when first, second, and third place went up, nobody was barely clapping because it was the same fucking trophy as 12th.
God.
So then people like these kiddos weren't even like trying to win anymore. There wasn't any drive. There wasn't any like reward for it. And it's the same thing with incremental goals. If you're going to overly achieve yourself on these incremental goals, like the passion for the actual end state that takes hard fucking work, it's no longer there. It gets diluted. Now we're doing that from an adolescent.
And it prevents people from learning when they lose. Like when you lose,
and what about my bumper sticker, dude? Like my kid's better than your kid. I want that fucking bumper
the
sticker.
only thing you can get out of losing, man, is to learn. And if you're getting a trophy for losing, you're not taking a minute to think about, okay, what did I learn out of this? How could I have done better?
Because, but again, it's that negative connotation that's getting put on. Well, nobody can fail, right? Everybody, we have to believe in our children, and it's like, man,
Dude,
like
you're
you guys
supposed to fail like a lot.
But here's the deal: trophies for everyone, all this shit, okay. But like it or not, at some point, they're going to get out into the real world and fucking lose because the real world doesn't give a fuck, bro. And if we have not prepared them the best that we can to overcome adversity and look at themselves and have some self-awareness and adjust and push forward, how the fuck are they going to attack life when they're out of your house? Right? Because like it or not, man, they're going to fucking lose.
Want to hear about this trophy I got?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I can't wait.
I haven't heard this. This is the worst.
Oh, I haven't heard it.
This is the worst trophy
This is
ever,
a day
dude.
one. We should have some. Hey, play the intro right quick. Day $1.00 exclusive. Eli's got a story. That was my way of giving you a trophy for having a story.
That's awesome.
Let's hear it, bro. Let's hear it.
I told you I was homeschooled for a couple years.
You did, man. And I appreciated you when you said that. And I was like, that was 6 months a little
I just
late.
give you more ammo and more
Dude,
ammo. I keep doing it. I don't know why.
I smoke weed for you. That's
but
enough.
anyway, when I was homeschooled, my parents wanted me involved in some sort of sports or something with kids.
Yeah.
So I got on this basketball team at this church. Because it was a church, they had a kids basketball team. I didn't have to be part of a school or anything for that. So I went and did that. And then the trophy that I got for that basketball team, I was terrible, by the way. The trophy I got for that basketball team was Best Christian Attitude. And it actually says that on the goddamn trophy.
Wait. Say this whole story again. You got a trophy that said what?
Best Christian Attitude was my trophy.
Do you still have this trophy?
I don't. No, I don't.
See, I always look a layer deep. This is the cop of me. I'm like, hey, motherfucker, you said you were Jewish.
Yeah, well.
What's this? Were they like throwing a pun at you? Like, we're going to call him a Christian kid?
No, well, I went to the church.
A Jewish
church? Christian church.
Oh.
Yeah, Jewish kids.
Well, dude, you weren't
basketball.
Listen, bro, you weren't going to. Do they know you were Jewish?
Yeah, well, and I'm not.
Well, you weren't going to win.
I'm not your traditional, like, Jew either. I was raised.
Oh.
I was raised like,
okay,
let's call it Jewish Christian.
Yeah,
that's how I was raised.
And I'm having fun with you. I'm open to all of it, dude. I grew up Jehovah's Witness. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Ooh,
you get
what?
it.
Bro, ha!
You didn't
play
know
the
that?
music, dude, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, he's actually playing it.
Day $1.00 exclusive.
Brought to you by the Kingdom Hall.
That's nice.
Yeah, man. For a little while, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, man, and my dad's Catholic, and he was cool. My dad's pretty laid back, man, and we had a good childhood. And my mom, I think it was more of a friendship thing. She can speak on it. I can't speak to it, but she has some good friends there. But yeah, man, you can't celebrate holidays.
That's
Well,
crazy.
and I don't disagree with the idea. So if anybody's listening to Jehovah's Witness, or was like, I'm super cool with it. And here's my deal in church: if it makes you a better person, go for it.
100% agree.
I'm all for it. Right?
100% agree.
But just to give some context to this, man, like, it sucked. Let me tell you, right? You didn't celebrate birthdays. You didn't celebrate holidays.
Why don't they do that?
So the ideology behind that is like you can't put any individual above God, even for a day, even for a moment. So by singing happy birthday and celebrating, you're putting someone above God per se. In their eyes. I'm not saying that this is true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that in their eyes, that's what you were doing. Listen, man, when you're 9, 8, 7, right? And you're like, dude, I want some fucking toys, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. But we did have what's called a family day, whereas my parents' wedding anniversary and they kissed. I don't know. They didn't celebrate it too much. I don't fucking know. Whatever parents do. I know what parents do, not 'cause I'm a parent. So whatever they did, their business. But my mom got us a couple of things, and she cared, man. She's a good lady. But yeah, dude, you kind of start thinking like, hey, did you go Jehovah's Witness because we're fucking broke and you can't buy us presents? you start getting older, you're 17, 18, like,
Right.
hey,
You start
that's
thinking.
a fucking trick. You relied on God to say we can't have these celebrations so you could afford to live and not buy us shit. I don't know.
It's funny because you always give Eli shit for being a Jew, but you're a Jehovah's
Whoa.
Witness. You motherfuckers
Dude, I
come to
know.
my door every Saturday.
You
they really?
motherfuckers.
they
Dude,
big
I
out
was the
here?
worst one. I know. I mean, I was a kid. They didn't, And again, good people, dude. I didn't have any bad experience with it. I'm just trying to give some context to the conversation, but it's just interesting. I'm not even sure why that's important. I was just kind of trying to relate to you being a Christian Jew, and they're like, hey, what's worse than a Christian
Appreciate
Jew?
that.
Hey, I was a Jehovah's Witness.
I
Hey,
appreciate
all
that.
right, and now we're
Yeah.
at the rock bottom. I got to share this stuff with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm not even.
Best Christian attitude.
Well, okay. Oh, yeah, trophies. There we go. We're back on track.
Yep.
Here, okay. Another big thing that goes with this, you can kind of take this for what it's worth, but it's a little bit opposite because pain is like something that we don't talk about. Conflict is something that we don't talk about, and
Right.
we kind of run from it. So we're kind of leading into this next subject, and it coincides, but when people think it's opposite, I think it's just different. But, the subject matter is placing yourself into a position of pain for progress, right? To be overly positive. And that's something, man, that's super important. And so my direct correlation to this was, and I love that I did it because I did it for me and I knew I could handle it. Like I've started over enough in life and I've overcome a ton of stuff to where I knew I've got to place myself into a position where, I have no choice but to succeed, right? Like I can't remember what old war guy did it, but I think when they attacked Cuba, right? The guy's like, burn the ships.
Vikings, I think. That's where that came from.
Nah, it wasn't a Vikings.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't a Vikings.
Cuba. Who
It was like
invaded
somebody who
Cuba
invaded.
with
Somebody
ships?
who invaded. The point is there were ships, okay?
Yeah.
And this guy was
It's
like,
called
hey,
Viking ships.
burn the fucking ships. Call them what you want, right? Burn the ships. And it's because it gave the soldiers no choice but to push forward.
Yeah, win or die.
Super extreme. But so let's take this down to, current day. When I got rid of 2 cars. My significant other lives with her parents, our daughter's with her parents, and I sleep in a fucking Y2K closet next to the Fig Newtons and the Campbell soup. I hated it, right? Let me burp. Even thinking about it gives me indigestion.
That's right.
And man, I did lift at night. So I kept one car. My M3 is amazing. Kept that car for the time being. And I did lift at night. And then I was studying all day. And I hadn't studied since college. I did college while I was, after the Marine Corps, I was doing the police work. And I hadn't studied in a long time. And I was afraid of it. And I wasn't sure, like, man, can I take a proctor test and pass? And can I do all these things? But I knew, here's the deal, man. If I don't place myself into a position to feel some pain, I'm not going to have any forced growth, right? So driving around Lyft every night, I fucking hated it, dude. I was up at night. I hadn't done that whole late night thing since graveyards as a cop. Obviously, I'd already done the fitness business stuff. I hadn't been doing graves in a long time. And, so I was up 6-7 hours a night to make $100, man. It fucking sucked. And it sucked so bad that the next morning, I got up, I went to the gym, right? I got my mind, I got my body right. I went fucking home. And I studied for 8 hours a day, and I did the course in 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks. But, that pain of the hit to my ego to sleep in a basement, the hit to my pride is what you're assuming. But I didn't like it, but I was relaxed in that basement, right?
Yeah.
My responsibilities were minimal. I didn't have to make a dime right this second. the money I made for a lift paid for my gas for the car to do lift, paid for my cell phone, and it let me put a little bit of food on the table, even though it wasn't
painful
required.
enough to make you fucking study 8 hours a day, dude.
And that's what I'm getting at. Like, I don't know if I would have continued my test. Like, I wasn't sold on real estate, man.
Yeah.
That's something I got to credit to Kate. She bought like all that stuff, and she's like, "Hey, here's what I think you'd be good at it. Fucking give it a shot." So I did. But if I didn't have enough pain, and if I didn't just feel what it was like to be like an everyday, nothing special person, go drive Lyft, right? Like, I was helping sell some memberships for a fitness company during the day when I had some time, and I crushed that. But I'm a gym manager now. Like, dude, that sucks too. Like, nobody respects that. I fucking hated it. I crushed it. Man. We were selling memberships like crazy, but I hated it. On top of that, the lift at night and just people treating you like this everyday person. You were nothing special. And I wasn't, man. I wasn't anything special. But I hated that pain so much. I got up, I got to the gym, got my mind right. I came home and I fucking forced myself to sit down and study and take all these test exams and ultimately pass. And then it went from there to, we got a condo, and from there we've upgraded, and we have our home, and it's a beautiful home, but I deliberately placed myself into pain. Right. And like I had that through police work, man. I had it through the Marine Corps and just the things that we did through there. Like, I've put my mind through pain before. I remember learning how to swim. Like, I was a terrible swimmer going into boot camp. Never shot a rifle till boot camp. And the rifle thing, I come from a long line of war vets, and I've got that in my blood. I think that's a little bit of it. But I wanted so bad to be good at it. And I was, and the pain of just sitting in positions and doing certain things and going through courses to be attached to SOCOM, and man, like just a mental fucking pain, bro. Like pain in my fucking brain, physical pain, but the reward that came from it. And then, having a history of that before, I knew, like, man, I know I'm due for another growth spurt,
right,
in life. Like, this isn't for me. And the fitness thing, the company was fun, but that's not my path. I'm here for bigger things. But I knew I had to put myself into a place of pain to really grow, and it's there's some strategy to it.
Well, and
we run from that kind of stuff normally versus like embrace it.
Do you know why that's so black and white for me? Looking, like, using fitness for an example, like that's where I learned a lot of that. Like, if you're not failing, your muscle's not going to grow. Like, you have to hit failure. So I applied a lot of that, but then also learning, and I learned this through like training people. Like, your body's an adaptive machine. When you put a stressor around your body, over time, it adapts to the stressor. That's why polar bears have thick fur. That's why lizards in the desert have like thick skin, right? Like, they adapt. But that only comes from extreme environments. So if we always feel comfortable, you're obviously never going to change. But by putting yourself in an extreme environment, the pantry and selling your cars, you were forced to change. It's going to happen.
Correct.
You're an adaptive machine.
And here's why it was hard too. We like to think we're a big deal. Sometimes we got to check our own fucking ego. Look, man, I was number 2 in that company. Right? I was number 2. I was the director of operations, and we were super successful locally. And we had some stores out of state that some of them were crushing. And a little bit of your ego gets stroked right there. Like, you get to work out at 4 p.m. today. Oh, you get to, right? Like, which is, those of you not in the gym world, that if you have everything else to do in your world to make money, ain't working out at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
But your ego's there, and you've got this title, man, director of operations. I was never a title guy. However, erosion, right? Like, over time, you start to believe your own bullshit.
Right.
And then I had enough of me in me to walk away, but then, like, look, man, like, I had my cars and they were fancy and it was this, and like I was starting over. The one thing that was not easy, but the one place I was compartmentalized in the Marine Corps was like, dude, I was young. Right? A buddy passed away, super young in the Marine Corps, and I decided to go, and I was young. So a lot of that physical and mental torture, like, you kind of have nothing to lose. And you got everything to prove. Well, when you're 30, 31 years old, like when I left the police department, I go into that, and we start working on that fitness, man, we're taking off and we're doing well. Look, man, I'm 32 years old when I'm deciding to leave that. I'm like, you're a big deal. You're director of operations. You guys are 13 going on 14 stores, and people fucking say hi to you. So it's kind of like, man, you're cush right now, right? Like, you're super cush, and cool, you walk away, but it's like, it's a different mindset when you've already earned some stuff, and you're cush, and you're soft, and you've got your house, and you've got your shit, and you got to give it all up to then go to a basement. That's completely different than, being 19 years old, going to boot camp, you didn't have shit in the fucking first place. You had nothing but everything to prove. right? Versus like you have everything and you have nothing to prove, but you do. And if you're trying to chase that thing down, you know, putting yourself back in that place of pain is beneficial. And if you've never done that before and you're not doing it until you have everything to lose per se, right? Like, man, that's a tough place to be. But like that quote says, man, and one of my favorite, you know, most men live in quiet desperation. Like they have that itch to be more, but we don't. And luckily for me, man, like I learned a lot of that from a lot of great leaders in the Marine Corps. So when I had to get to that point, like when I was on the fence of like walking away from that title and from Kush, I'm going to call it, right, to adventuring out and wanting more for myself, I knew I wanted more. But to jump out, to actually go do it, and then, okay, I'm doing it, and then get rid of junk, man, get rid of material things that you can buy again. Because I'd been there before, like through my careers, man, I felt like I knew what I was doing, and it was like a calculated risk.
You know, you can endure some pain. I think
it still sucked.
Dude, if you haven't been through pain,
fucking
man,
Fig Newtons were delicious, though.
If you haven't been through pain, I think a lot of people don't realize is that the pain is temporary. And with that, it's like, okay, can I be uncomfortable for 2 to 5 years? Yeah, fuck yeah.
You know what sucked? Being old, not doing it.
Yeah.
Like having this guy inside you that you always want to be and you never fucking try. I'd rather go lose my ass.
Can't do that.
Well, but that's the entrepreneur in you. That's the Marine. Like, you've got to have some grit somewhere.
And
that comes from that.
now what it is, now that we're, you know, finding some success, now I look at it like our new pain is, okay, how long can we hold off on not taking as much of a profit and putting money back into the company and putting money into the podcast? Because now I feel like it's kind of a waiting game. Like whoever can, you know, put up with the most pain the longest will win. Because it's like, shit, if we're good right now, we're paying our bills, wives are happy, and we can put more money into other ventures like this and video production and marketing, just put more stuff into the business, you're going to win big time in the long term.
We've also found some things that we enjoy doing. And I think when you're having a great time and you're around great friends and you're doing what you want to do, you know that money's going to come.
Yep.
And you're embracing it versus like having that.
And you're not chasing it. It'll be there. I'm happy right now, bro. You know what I mean? Like I don't need the money. Right. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be financially, but I'm happy right now, dude. I could not make another dollar in my life, and if I could keep doing what I'm doing now and keep doing business, and
it is fun. It is fun.
Yeah.
Well, and there's not really like a radar on our back.
Nope.
You know, like once you're like a whole being a big deal per se, you've got a big target on your back, and there's a lot of expectations and things like this, and you know, stuff like this with Fat and you and I doing this stuff, man. I don't think it'll get more fun. I think we're going to embrace bigger responsibilities and there's going to be some bigger rewards. But as far as just doing it, I think, you know, even now we reflect on last year, man, wasn't that fucking fun? And like, dude, that month was crazy. And, you know, I think no matter how big we get, man, I think it's always going to be like, dude, remember the basement in that off the grid location where we had Wolf Pup fucking guarding us. What, by the way, that's the dog's accurate, the location's not. But yeah, man, I agree. And I think it's important. So when we talk about deliberately placing yourself into pain, it's calculated, it's deliberate, but it's on your terms. Right? That's the biggest thing. It's like when people, man, I can't stand when people work in corporate America and they talk to us about how we do it. I don't know how you guys can do it. Like, dude, your money's not guaranteed. They could downsize. They could fire your ass. They could tomorrow. Like your money's not guaranteed.
And guess
either.
what? That $850,000 house you just bought,
you're
gone. Fucked.
Yeah, man. But for us, it's
terrifying.
Like if you're gonna embrace, if you're gonna put yourself in that place of pain, like it's on your terms and it's calculated. And I also do something, and I'm not sure if you do. I spoke about this with our networking group with FitWorks, and I talked about Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a hard day for me because a lot of Marines, that I know, several Marines. A lot's subjective, but I've got a handful of men that I knew that died while in the Marine Corps. So Memorial Day, is one of those days. That's a little hard for me because you can't escape that. Like it's Memorial Day, you're gonna be thinking about friends and just questioning like, oh, man, why wasn't I deployed to here? Why wasn't I deployed over there? Or why did it happen to these guys that had families, but I was single with no kids when I was in? And like, man, you contemplate certain things. And something I as I've matured and I've embraced my thoughts a little bit better is, again, man, I deliberately go there. So on Memorial Day, I don't try to keep myself busy. I don't try to distract myself. I embrace that day for what it is, and I reflect on, everything that's happened, and I reflect on the opportunity that I have. And hey, man, this last year, have I really been working as hard as I should be with the opportunity that I have? And yeah, man, I kind of place myself into not some sorrow, but some sad thoughts about memories. but they motivate me, and I reflect on that day more than January 1. That day doesn't fucking matter. Dude, that January 1 just doesn't do it for me, right? But Memorial Day does, or my birthday does. Those are just harder days for me. But again, having some of those not so happy thoughts and reflecting about guys, it turns into a positive because I'm able to go, hey, the opportunity that I have, right? Like, are these men, would they be proud of me? Like, with everything that I have and how fortunate I am to be here, are they proud of me? And then when I can say, yeah, like, I'm not where I want to be yet. But I think over this last year and the transition I've had and just cowboying up and doing my fucking thing, hey, would these fellow Marines that aren't here, would they be proud of me? Yeah. Man, that's such a good feeling and dude, this is the first time I've even said that part of this on audio or in front of anyone. I say that to myself on the back fucking deck, man. I hang out and relax, and maybe I'm writing something on Facebook, but I can't lie to myself. So no matter what I try to say or put makeup on, whatever it may be, I know on the inside whether I'm making those dudes proud or not.
Right.
And not just guys that have passed away, but guys that are still here. Like, hey, am I working as hard as I can to where, like, they know, like, hey, man, he's got an opportunity like the rest of us, and hey, that guy's doing work, man. He's kicking ass. When I can say, yeah, that's fucking cool. But again, it doesn't come from like this positive place. It comes from a place where, like, yeah, man, my heart's broken. You know, like, I think any Marine that knows a Marine that's passed away, your heart breaks for that. But again, having the integrity to go, like, I can't change that, right? I can't change that. But what I can do is take every opportunity to be better, you know, and every day is that opportunity for me. And hey, am I doing that? Yeah.
You know what that is, dude?
It's fucking cool.
That's something everyone should strive for, and what that is, that's being an observer of your emotions.
But you got to find that. You got, you know, and this is what we talk about in FitWorks.
Right.
Unfortunately, I have some pinnacle days that I get to reflect on.
Right.
That I can't run from, and I say unfortunately because of course we want those guys back. I'm not sure what everybody's pinnacle piece is, like for Fat or for whoever. I'm not sure what it is. You got to find that in yourself, and you got to find a way to reflect on it. But again, man, it comes back to the toxic positivity and always have to be happy-go-lucky or people patting you on the back. And good, look, man, let's say I had a year where I'm reflecting on Memorial Day. I'm like, hey, you know, am I doing everything I can with this opportunity, and am I making these guys proud? What if I said no? Right? Like, oh, shit, don't say no.
Right.
Look, dude, you can't lie to yourself. Conversations you have with yourself, that's completely different, right? So, you know, no, I'm not. Okay. All right, like, embrace that. Like, let that sink in for a minute and go, all right, why not? What's going on? And then here's the deal. Just like Marines that have passed away can't change that. Okay, if you're saying honestly with yourself after this year, you're not making these guys proud. You haven't taken the opportunity that you've been blessed with and capitalized on it. Okay, but now you can't change that. You just gave yourself an answer for the last 12 months. Okay.
So now,
but what are you going to do now? Like honesty, man, it's such a tool. Like, knowing your weakness is a strength. Knowing where you suck can help you. Identifying something as big as, man, I'm not making them proud. Like, maybe it's, dude, I'm depressed, or I'm an alcoholic, I'm drinking, or I'm taking my frustrations out on my significant other, or whatever your thing is that made you say, no, man, I'm not being as productive as I could have been this last year. And man, guys that have gone before me, I'm probably not making them proud. They probably deserve to be here more than me, right? Like, we all deserve to be here. That's the wrong word. Deserve is the wrong word. But I think everybody's picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
Am I earning my keep?
See, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, like, myself having to get better at and getting better at, taking that moment to literally, like, I'm going to use this term as a positive because we've been using a negative self-talk. You're sitting there saying, like, no, I haven't done as much.
I don't think you should say negative. I think it's honest. I think it's honest self-talk. I think, negative, honest, it takes a lot for me to say something is negative, right? But that's not negative. It's not negative to not say negative. Like, honest. Am I doing, you know, like for my example, am I doing all I can? Did I do all I can this year to take the opportunity I have and capitalize on it? Would I be making these guys proud? No. Okay, can't change that, man. That you just answered 12 months. Okay, no. Okay, that's not negative. It's might be negative, or it sucks that you didn't. You fucking wasted a year. Fine, but don't waste another one.
Yeah.
Let's be honest and be very matter of fact right here. And then great. What's your game plan? Like, what got away from you? Because you don't think about Memorial Day every day of the year. Things go to the wayside, and you get distracted, and you make bad decisions in relationships, and before you know it, you're fucking off, and you're like, boom, you wake up, it's Memorial Day, and you're like, fuck, I'm not doing all I can. Or maybe it's like the majority of the year you did, but there's some things you could get better at. That's why also I love these days that I'm forced to, like, where I can't hide from them, because, dude, it keeps me in check. It's something, it's something that keeps me in check with when 4th of July, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, keeps me in check. So if I'm getting off the rails, or if I'm getting distracted, or if I'm getting too stressed with work, if I'm not spending enough time at home, I don't go very long before one of those days pops up and I'm like, man, I got to check my shit. Everybody has to find that.
So the average person, when they're having that honest self-talk moment, the first thing that their brain is going to do is it's going to go straight to an excuse. Oh, well, I did this because of that person. Or no, it was this or it was that made me do that. How do you suggest people stop with the fucking excuses and giving themselves that out?
Well, I think so here's what's fun about self-talk, right? Is I think you're giving yourself an excuse. I think in your own fucking head.
People are really good at tricking themselves.
You're giving them an excuse right now, Eli, you motherfucker.
People are really good at
People are listening to this
themselves.
podcast going like,
I'm saying,
right.
I love people, but at the same time, don't give them too much credit because...
Well, I guess the people that should have credit are the people that, aren't sociopaths and they can't lie to themselves.
People will give themselves an excuse and then immediately move on and, can't do anything about it.
I mean, and you're right. You're probably right, man. And I can't speak to that. I'm not a doctor. I almost don't give a fuck, right? Like, I feel like you might be a borderline sociopath if you just have no remorse for your actions or how you're treating people or how you're taking advantage of situations for yourself. I don't know. That's a hard one, but I would say if you haven't learned that quality and you're listening now, like having people in your life call your shit like, hey man, answer. Like you're kind of giving yourself an excuse right now. No, I think you're wrong. I think you should be doing this, and being able to embrace that. And ultimately, can't remember where I heard it a while back, but people don't change until it's too painful not to.
Right.
That's a good piece. And I think I remember the guy that told it to me, but I don't think it's his. I think that's probably been around for a while, but people don't change until it's too painful not to. As in, you keep giving yourself an excuse in relationships for why you do what you do. Like you were abused as a kid, or you grew up without a father, so you cheat, whatever. And obviously I'm shooting from the hip here, guys. I'm not calling anybody out or saying that's typical, but and then it gives you that excuse to continue to cheat because your dad did, or because you didn't have a dad, or whatever it is. Eventually you're going to lose that girl. Right. And maybe that's enough pain to like, man, she's gone. Right. Like, and next time I got to be better at, or you lose, maybe you're skipping practice, or maybe you're doing drugs and you're hungover the next day. Right. And then you get in trouble, whether you're in the military, you're playing sports, like something's got to happen to where at some point somebody pulls the plug on you and you can't control it and say, hey, you're not here. You don't cut it. You're not here, and we've had that on the team. Yep. We've had some younger guys on the team that I think are great people, but weren't putting the work in, and then kept relying on everybody else and leaning on everyone else to provide more resource for them when they weren't even doing they hadn't even finished what was on their plate, but they're asking for seconds kind of thing. Right. And listen, man, maybe that's what they need in order to understand, like, you know what, dude, I'm not an entrepreneur. I need to go back somewhere and be babysat so I do my shit and get better. Or maybe it's embarrassing to go back where you came from, and maybe you can't stand being babysat anymore, and wherever you go in the future, you take it a little bit more serious.
You just get better.
Yeah, so maybe it's that, man. Maybe you're right. Maybe people aren't noticing that they don't have enough self-awareness, and hopefully they're lucky enough to have someone call their shit, and from high, man, I had great baseball coaches in high school. They called my shit. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Hard on me, but it came from a good place, but hard on me. Same thing in the Marine Corps, man. Like, but again, calling, like when you got your shit called out in the Marine Corps, it wasn't negative. It was honest. And they're your brother. And I explain this all the time. Like, in the Marine Corps, man, you might fight it out. You might call your brother a motherfucker. But if anybody else calls you motherfucker, like if you're out in the bar and anybody else calls you motherfucker, they're going to fuck that guy up. Right. But you could call him a mother because he's your brother. Right. And again, man, when you're training, when you're training during the era I was in, there's just not enough room for patty cake. It was like, here's where we're inadequate. Here's where we got to get better. But no one was mad at you. Right. Right. And then if someone just wasn't responding to training, like if you had guys that were just going through remedial and just couldn't understand it, they just, hey, look, you got to go to a different position. They didn't hate you. You just went to H&S, headquarters and service company, whatever it may be. Or same thing in police world, man. When I was going through the academy, and then you end up going on the street and you go through FTO, your field training, and you're a cop. You're post certified, and now you got your field training. If you're not safe on the street, if you're not doing things appropriately, and you can't, and the other cops on the street observing you, can't get you to grasp certain things, you're just not going to make it. But they're not going to be an asshole to you. It's just like, look, man, guys are going to get hurt or died, or the people in the community are going to get hurt or died, or you're going to get hurt or you're going to die. You're just not responding to training. And some of those guys left, went to a different department, went through a second academy. Now they're on the street. So some of that pain helps them. But again, man, like when people call your shit like that, it just doesn't have to be negative, right?
Right.
But because they're not handing you a fucking trophy, like, hey,
Well, dude,
you're out of the academy, but you tried real hard.
And that's more important now than ever, because you know what? Like now we need to find people to put around ourselves who are going to call us on our shit. You know what they had 1,000 years ago? Motherfucking nature, dude. If your ass wasn't out hunting every day, guess what? You're going to fucking die.
Well, it's a matter of fact. You either get that, get that buffalo or you don't, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Or you just eat off of some other
If
dude.
you woke up and you didn't feel, and get your ass beat in with a rock or something, dude. Like that was the thing, man. If you were lazy, if you were like too depressed to get off your ass and go do anything,
You weren't good.
you're gonna die.
He's gonna go 300 right now. And start kicking dudes
You're
off
gonna die.
off the day $1 mountain. No, it's true, man. But again, we're cush. Like we've got we've got a good life. Man, I've been a lot of places. I still think America is the best thing going. You know, and we've got a good place here. And a lot of times, like for me, camaraderie is forged in adversity.
Right.
If there's not enough adversity, people don't grow together and become one. They don't become cohesive, right? Same thing with like business and entrepreneurship. Like you and I, man, we're growing together and we kind of rely on each other, but there's responsibility behind that. And there's a necessity to have someone say where you're not adequate. And then there's that necessity, that obligation to get better. If people don't have it, they don't give a shit about their jobs, or if they're not appreciative for their families, or if their partner tries just as little as them, I'm not sure they're in the environment where they can have that growth.
Right,
I don't know. It's a scary place to be, but I think it's important.
Dude, it is. And I
what I'm
think for the time being, man, that's why like podcasts like this are so important. Having people, you know, that you can not just read a book and get pumped up on, but hear somebody's real actual thoughts and long form content, so that you can get those little snippets, man, that remind you of yourself. And then, hey, like that person, they kind of are like me, but look how they are now. That means I can be like that.
I got this guy in my guy. There's a couple guys that message me on social media, and they're always super positive, and one of them was like wanting to come see you and I from overseas. I don't know if he wanted to like get at us or what. It's pretty weird because we're not a big deal. And he was always like, hey man, how's your day? Hey, what are you doing? You know, and dude, after like the 300th message, I just go, hey man, because he would be positive. He'd ask me a question. I'm going through this, and it is always like this positive stuff, but like no
also
updates.
not doing shit.
And I go, finally, like, you know me when I'm like, hey man, what the fuck are you doing? Right?
If you guys ever hear from Will, hey man, or listen, or no disrespect. If you hear no disrespect, you're about to get disrespected.
Do I still say that one?
Yeah.
It's subjective that you think I'm disrespect. If I say no disrespect and then, but he's going to disrespect it, that's subjective.
But it's one of those things that people instantly feel like,
Oh,
it's like, no
100%.
offense. As soon as you're no offense, you're like, I'm already offended.
100%.
I'm looking for shit to be offended for right now.
Right. Fat knows what's up. He's over there grinning at me, right? So I'm like, hey man, because he's like, hey, what are you doing?
Oh, what if it's, hey man, listen.
Yeah.
No disrespect. You get 3.
Fuck.
Oh, you fucking run. Just run.
Run it. Hope
that.
Eli has
Sorry,
some.
go ahead. I'll let you finish
Hope
your thought.
Eli has
Felt
some.
that one.
Did you? That was a good one. So I'm like, he's like asking me hey, what are you doing or whatever. And I went ideological on him. He didn't realize it. And I get it now. But he asked me what I was doing. And I told him, I was like, I'm in a meeting. We're negotiating this. I shouldn't even have messaged while I was in the meeting. And he's like, cool. And I was like, hey man, what the fuck are you doing? Right? And I'm like, hey, like, what are you doing with your life, man? Like, you're always messaging me like, fuck me. What are you doing? You know? And if people like, I have a hard time when people thank me because I'm always questioning people's motives. And sometimes there's good motives. Don't get me wrong. But when people are around, I question why, you know? And I respond to this guy, man. He's overseas, but he's a super nice dude. I looked at his account. It's legit. He's a nice guy. And, but I think he comes to me for positive reinforcement, just to talk to a guy who he thinks is positive, because I'm not going to say I'm a big deal here. So who he thinks is positive or who he thinks is productive based off of things that he has said to me directly. I'm an ideological. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And he told me, he's like, getting ready to go walk my
Making
dog.
a sandwich, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, man. What are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
You know, like, forget me. Almost like leave the nest. Like, I can't wait till the day you come back and go, hey, dude, I just lost. He's an overweight guy, and we've talked fitness, and that's where we kind of like started those conversations, and it was positive, and he'd ask me stuff, and I'm like, dude, I can't wait until you text me back, and you're like, dude, I lost 60 pounds. You know, like I can see your photos, and I relate this to guys that I know, like, and I bring up Tosh a lot. He's just a beautiful person, man. But and sometimes I'll message him. He doesn't get back. I know he's busy. I don't give a shit, man. It's cool, bro. He's fucking busy. Or I'll say, hey, what's your opinion on this? Or hey, man, we just got invited to a podcast in San Francisco, and we're thinking of starting our own. He's like, fuck yeah, cool. But I don't, one, he's too fucking busy. I don't rate to have that guy in my life every day. He's a giant, man. Like the fact that I even know his name and I'm able to share a room with him sometimes, I'm blessed. So he doesn't have time for me every day, nor does he need to. But here's the deal. Even if he had time for me every day, man, I would feel guilty as fuck if I'm just saying, hey, man, what's up? And this and that. Like, no, man, if I don't talk to you for a year, hey, that's cool. What I want to do is say, I hung out with you 8 months ago for 3 hours at your house. We had a great fucking time. And since then, your conversation with me brewed these thoughts, which created these 9 different funnels. And here's what we're doing. Because that shit, he's going to go, all right,
dude.
Brother, like you're fucking doing something with it. You're not just up here blowing smoke up my fucking ass, telling me how cool I am. Like, if I think Tosh is that cool, or if I think he's that valuable, where the fuck am I? Like, what am I doing with it? Because am I just going to tell him and blow smoke up his ass on how cool he is? Or am I going to shut the fuck up and take whatever little bit I get from him every once in a while, apply it to what I'm doing, come back and like show him, hey man, here's what I've hunted, right? Like show him like, hey dude, I know I say you're a big deal. Here's the impact you have on me. There's way more validity to that. There's way more conversation if I see him 1 year for that than me fucking blowing smoke up his ass every day. And that's how I kind of felt. And as good as it feels to have people message us or you guys are so positive, this and that, dude, I think sometimes it's people blowing fucking smoke. They want some positive reinforcement to say, hey, thank you so much. And they felt like they made our day. I'm like, why are you doing this? I don't need that, right? But
100%.
We feel good to hear it. And then they feel good to say it, right? So like they've accomplished their day by making somebody feel good. I'm like, nah, man, if you want to make me feel good, go fucking tackle what you said you were going to do. If you think I'm a big deal or I'm worth your time, or I'm impacting your world, hey, man, I don't think so, because you haven't changed a fucking thing. And, hey, that's okay. Not being negative, just being honest. But, look, man, because I generally want people to get better. So when I'm hearing, hey, and thank you and all this stuff, but he's not changing a fucking thing,
right?
I don't feel good at all.
No.
I'm like.
Makes you feel worse.
Hey, man.
Again, how being too positive can have a negative effect.
Yeah, and sometimes it's self-induced. Sometimes it's not just the crowd around us patting us on the back. Sometimes you look for places to send positive reinforcement to feel good about making somebody feel good. And then when it comes to me, not to sound pretentious or like I'm above anybody, I'm not. I just question why you're doing it, because I question why I do. Like it's twofold. I look at myself in the middle, like whatever's coming from my right side and people feed me some positive reinforcement, I'm questioning it just as much as I question it when I text message Tosh.
Right.
Hey man, podcast last night was on point, dude. I learned this and this. And sometimes he won't even respond. He's a busy motherfucker, man. He's a big deal. But I just feel good to say that. But then if he's watching my stuff, he's going to see that I'm applying it. But then I feel good to apply it. I don't feel good because he responds and says, yeah, fucking great. I don't need him to fucking smoke my skin wagon. Yep. Right?
Well, and he's,
man.
Yeah, and he's feeling the same way. He's like, dude, I'm just getting my thoughts out, man.
Yeah.
Great
guy. Beautiful. Yeah. I know I'm talking about him a lot today, but he just comes to mind with a lot of this stuff and how much that he reflects on it and just gives me some of my own thoughts to, I'm adopting some of his thoughts, but they're in my own world. Like he'll say something and it resonates and I'm like, how does that apply to me? And I think that's what's important. So going back to like you talking about books and everything that you've read and this and that, I think it's, people and books and whatever you're into, you've got to find a way to take something. You're not going to take everything from it. Even like this fucking podcast. If the last thing I just said to you was the only thing that you take, fucking awesome, man. Get after it. But you've got to find, like you're reading and you're diving into it, but you got to find like one thing or one or two things that you can take away from a situation, and then you got to go apply it. Right? Like in college, dude, you got fucking class and you got lab. The practical application, like, okay, here's all your fucking study. Okay? Let's go apply it and see what reactions we get. Because your own data is more important than anyone else's on how this works for me and like, oh, we did this and get abs in 10 minutes a day, right? Or like abs in 26 days. Fuck you. Right? Not true. Not for guys like me.
It's physical. The concept of it is physically impossible.
Yeah.
Like, the books are the workout plan. Life is the gym. It's physically impossible to get in shape without going to the gym and just reading workout plans. You have to get to the gym, which is just applying it to real life.
Dude, just like in real estate, we have a business model. I'm not going to get into it. It's not a podcast for that, but we have a business model and it works. And that's what works for us. And look, there's going to be other people that have different business models. People that work remote and no offices and all this other bullshit. Cool. Yep. But that's not us and that's not what works for us. It's the same thing with self-help and this toxic positivity and everything else. It's like take everything, take the good with the bad, but just run a diagnostic on yourself and really figure out like what works for me. You know what I mean? Like, how do I apply that to my life? And then when you're getting resources from people that you're having influence you, or you're watching YouTube, or you're reading a book, cool. But you got to try to focus on one or two things, how it applies to your world or how you think it applies. Go fucking try it. Maybe it doesn't work at all. Great. Stone fucking turned. Start turning fucking stones. And you're going to figure out your own recipe on what works, man. And that's what's most important.
And that's a great thing to apply to your situation right now. So not only like, let's go see and if this will work, but what I'm doing right now, is that working at all? Am I moving forward or am I sitting still? Maybe in your head you're like, well, things aren't getting worse, but are you moving forward?
And you're going to learn a process. This is I think like the biggest key when you actually cowboy up and you're starting to do that.
Right.
Like you're taking one or two things. How does it apply to me? Hey, great. Now let that fucking build, man. Like don't look for what that do for me today. Like if you're going to, okay, I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to do cardio because my goal is to lose fat. Okay, great. You'll watch a video, you read a book on fitness, and then you go to the gym every day for a week. And then you're trying to measure your progress. It's minimal. It's a week. That's the other thing, man. It's like you got to work at a high pace, but you got to be patient as fucking.
Yeah.
You got to allow for a process to go, and your why has to be in tune. Right? Like our podcast, man. This is episode 2. 5 people will probably fucking listen to this and say something. Hey, cool, but we're not in it. Like we're in it for the 5 people. I appreciate anybody that gives their time, but we also understand the process of marketing, the process of just doing things that you love and doing the best that you can with the platforms you have to give as much back and much influence as possible.
Right.
And if right now it's 5 people that take something away from this, even if it's 1, dude, that's fantastic. But I'm not grading myself and I'm not grading what's working for me or this process off of episode 2. Because what you're going to find out is you're going to learn a fuck ton from the process, not the book, right? Like, just going through the process, you're going to start improvising and adapting and overcoming things that pop up in that process. And even though 1 or 2 things don't work, you're going to find something that does.
Yep.
And you can't give up on the process. So just starting, right? Like doing the cardio every day. Oh, I'm not losing weight. But when I did cardio 3 times a week and I was lifting weights, I lost more weight. Why is that? And now you're diving into different pieces to the puzzle and you're starting to build it, which gives you more direction. So that's the biggest thing too, man, is great, you're started. Focus, give your time, be very resourceful with looking for advice and where you're going, but you can't forget to actually like go into that and allow that process to take course and then gather evidence. Don't look about giving up, right? Like episode 2, day 1, $0, like, man, we're not going to look at viewers today and like, oh, it's not working. No, man, it's working because you and I get to talk a lot and have some fun outside of real estate because we're working so much and just fuck off. And if you guys want to smoke a little weed, cool. But again, there's going to be a process that you and I and Fat learn from episode 1 and 2 to episode 100. And there's going to be a lot in marketing. There's going to be a lot in message. There's going to be a lot and a lot that's going to change between now and then that make it better. But that's where you grow the most.
Yeah.
You don't grow the most by starting. You grow the most by enduring that fucking process and seeing where you're at episode 100.
And dude, what people need to understand, and I think this is one thing that helps me with commitment and just doing things that are so long term, is that everything works. And in essence, everything works.
Yeah.
So choose which one of those you actually want to do and then find a way to be the best at it and don't fucking stop. Period. Everything works.
Well, and before you call it quit, right? Like if you want to see if something else works, you gotta try hard, and you gotta try it for a long time before you switch that map.
Right.
But like with you and I, like with business, man, like we're dedicated to a model, but then within that, there's some subcategories where we're super flexible and we're not afraid to adjust things on the fly, but we're still working in that direction of that North Star.
Right.
I think it's important, man. So if you're listening today, I'm not sure how long we are in today. How far are we gone today?
Minute and 18.
A minute.
Oh, no, sorry. An hour and 18
A fucking
minutes.
minute. Fat's been smoking way too much weed.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Super important
really?
topic today.
No, not really. Something else in my vape juice.
Dude, I mean, he does have to listen to us a lot. I get that. I get that. But
I enjoy it.
I don't know, Fat. You got anything to add to this? We don't want to treat you like Jamie, like Joe Rogan. I love that podcast, man. I love how open he is to different categories and just
Learning, man.
learning
Always
a fuck ton.
Yeah.
But Jamie could talk a little bit more. Maybe Jamie's just not as cool as Fat.
Probably not.
We got a fucking
Probably
sleeper.
I'm waiting for the cameras to get set up.
Oh, he has to unveil himself.
Yeah.
You can have who's fat? Who's this guy?
Yeah.
You should wear like a mask, like the marshmallow or
Oh shit.
right, like a dead mouse. Get
Well, I
your own
think
fat
our
mask. That's a good idea. Well, you're too pretty to cover that face.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got a good body
I don't
though.
know.
So if you did have the mask on,
I think you guys are gonna have
that
sex.
body
in
be popping.
my- Good thing we're at an undisclosed location that's bomb proof in case you guys decide to do each other. Nobody will find
Jesus.
out. Yeah.
Bomb-proof.
Yeah.
Does it need to be bomb proof?
I don't know. Viet Cong over here.
Yeah,
That's racist. I'm kidding. I'm
that's
kidding.
funny.
Well, if you're married to an Asian woman, so you know what, you could be racist. You got the pass.
He's like grandfathered in.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm smart, man.
Eli.
Cultured. Nothing against
I
white
mean,
I'm
girls.
Jewish.
Yeah, I guess so.
The persecution our people have gone through,
Dude,
Fat.
that's
Does
real
that mean
talk.
Nothing.
Hey, listen, man.
Does that
That's
mean nothing?
Fat, that's fucked up. He's right.
Starting
Right.
at the Genesis home team, starting there,
Yeah.
fuck persecution every damn day.
From who? From me? Dude, listen. Persecution is a harsh word. I'm okay if you say friction, growth,
Starting with here,
a sunflower through the
I'm
cement. I
talking
don't
specific to Judaism, though.
know. I persecute you every day.
Yeah, starting
God
here and then
damn.
going back to, we got a whole long history. man.
So what you're saying is because your people went through a Holocaust, you can endure me through my persecution?
No, we're
Like,
talking
that's-
about racism. He said you were like allowed the racist
Oh,
card.
got it.
And then he looked at me and said, Eli. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? Not that I want to be. I like how I'm fighting for like the right to be racist here. I'm like, no, bro, I should have the same right to be racist as well.
Yeah. But here's the problem, man. Like that stuff happened in Germany. A lot of the other stuff happened in America. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you, I don't even give a fuck that much about whatever we're talking about. I just like arguing you,
Yeah, I know.
and I'm digging
I
it.
learned that by now. Hey, but it's good. It's getting me used to resolving
It's
conflict.
not. Listen, it's not negative.
Right?
If you
No.
can, if you can articulate
right.
with me and
Right.
even come close to winning a battle, you're in good
That's the
shape.
fucking truth. Talk to
You're
me in
in
like
good shape.
10 years. I'm going to be a beast, bro.
Fucking ninja.
I can just tell people, hey, I worked with Will
You're gonna have your
Grimes.
little corporate
I worked
meeting.
with Will Grimes for like over a decade.
You're gonna patent another verbal judo and
Yeah. If I ever did
Make
have
it
to
real
turn in
safe.
a resume, I
Yeah.
would have on there that I worked with Will Grimes.
Yep.
for-
When they call me, I say he's
decades.
a piece of shit, so I don't lose him. That's how that fucking.
and then
works,
they would
man.
be like, okay, now we know
If
you worked with
if
him.
Fat ever tried to go anywhere else, I'd be like, nah, man, that guy fucking stole money. He's a piece of shit. So you couldn't ever leave. That's how that works.
You find some way to put some
Nah,
weird shit
either,
on your
man.
record.
We got a good crew here, man. And guys, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Just putting good people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're going through this,
And you're going to have some wrong people. It takes some
Yeah.
time. You're going to have some wrong people.
and here's where it's hard too. You're gonna have some people that are great friends that maybe you don't get business advice
Yeah.
from, or you don't get marriage advice from, whatever it may be, right? Like Eli's not gonna ask me what the best weed is out there, and I'm not mad at that. I'm just not the guy on that. But on a more serious scale, things like this are important. I think you've got to have your own barometer of like when people are feeding you bullshit, and if you're feeding yourself bullshit, and just taking one or two things that you can from everything and then applying it, but not being romantic and just getting out there and getting dirty and documenting what you're doing. And sometimes we're very quick to see what works or what doesn't work, and we're very hard on ourselves for what doesn't work. But when something does work, you've got to be able to look at that too, not just like don't go overly hard on yourself and overly open to failure. And okay, that didn't work. Why? Because then when something does work, we're too busy slapping ourselves high five, and we don't realize like, oh, hey, that worked. Why?
Right.
You need to run that after action report with everything that you do, and if something's working, hey, that's a great sign. Look at that, see where that pattern's at. That way you can start duplicating that result. Big deal.
Absolutely.
Until episode number 3, we will see you guys. We will see. This is audio, but we've got some servers that are going up and some video that's going up. And we will see you guys. It'll be a visual
Will,
Friday.
That was such a good podcast, dude. We did such a good fucking job, man. High five, dude.
Dude, here's
we
what's
good
funny.
or
You guys,
what, man?
are we good or what?
God, we need to go celebrate.
Listen, here's what's funny.
You want a fucking trophy?
Here's,
Yes. Yes. I would love a trophy.
Here's what's funny. Eli just took a huge hit of weed, okay?
No, I didn't.
Off your vape pen.
That's CBD, my friend.
Okay. I get it. Wink, wink. Eli's winking into the fucking
It's
mic.
mostly CBD.
All right, cool. But you hit that. I'm naive. So I'm like, oh, cool. And then right after you hit that, you're like, dude, this podcast is so good, man. I thought you were being for real. And I was like, what the fuck did he just say to me?
And then the sarcasm
Yeah,
came
yeah.
through.
No, I liked it, man.
Yeah,
No, you're
yeah.
right. But keep working hard, guys. Comment below if you like. If you guys have topics you might want us to cover, we're always open to that too. And whoever's listening, man, if we can help you guys out and just give you one or two things to take away from just two small time guys. We're not a big deal, and I say that in all seriousness, but just two small time local Denver guys that are doing a couple things right, and we're working hard at it, and we really want to share that with people and really try to expose the work ethic and the honesty that comes with that success, and just the honesty behind not feeling like you have to be a big deal right away, and just really documenting and getting down into what I call the infantry and putting boots on the ground and working hard and building something that's sustainable and something that you're proud of.
And we're real big on personal interaction, guys. So when you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, comment your questions below. Feel free to shoot us a DM too if you're dealing with some personal issues or need some advice on specific things. We love getting personal with people, so we're here for you guys.
Real personal.
Until next time, roll that music, brother.
See you guys.